Welcome to the stage, the producers, Michael Lerner and Odessa Ray. So, Michael, can you start by talking about how your this collection of filmmaking team came together to make this film?
I was busy making a film about the Belarus opposition, and I was on tour with them in Europe, and I got a phone call from Karim saying, "Can you come to Kiev in 2 days' time?" And I thought about it for a bit of time, and then I just said yes. A week previous to that, I met Odessa in London. She was screening Navalny, and we just met, and then a week later we were in Kiev together and starting this project. So it started with, Karim established contact with Rustem, in fact, and through Rustem we set out to see what else we could sort of get. So, and then with Odessa's great skill and perseverance and strength, we managed to expand the team of people we were following, and then we were committed to doing that. And then I suppose we got to a point where we feel we had a film. I mean, that was probably the most difficult thing to really understand, was when to stop filming as ever. And so yeah, it kind of came out of the blue. I think if I'd have thought about it too much longer, I probably wouldn't have done it, but I'm glad I did, obviously.
And Odessa, can you share your own personal story into this?
Well, I met Rustem when he contacted me via another person because he had been poisoned, and they thought that I might, through Christo Grozev, who's in the audience today, who is the subject of my film Navalny, might have a connection to a German chemical weapons specialist. And so through that, I started this communication with Rustem. Shortly after that, I met Karim and Mike, and Karim had come to Rustem through his own channel, and we were all like, this looks like an interesting gateway to something that is not being explored, because we had been hearing about so many documentaries on the front lines, but nothing within the government.
And so bring us up to today in this world of fast-changing events. Obviously, the conflict in the Middle East has, grabbed the world's attention in a way that might have been occupied by Ukraine for a while, and is also becomes a question of resources. And how, amongst the community of people that you talk to in Ukraine, are they feeling that? Are they feeling a shift of the world's attention?
They're definitely feeling it. Yes, it's unavoidable. And just like that, the world's attention goes to another war, and war begets war begets war.
Let me take some questions from the audience. If you have one, raise your hand. I see a hand in the middle there.
Yeah, thank you. Apparently, the attack on Israel by Hamas happened on Putin's birthday, October 7th. I don't know if you knew that. Do you think there's a connection? I mean, do you think he knew it was coming? Or is that just 1 in 365 coincidence?
Well,
that's a question for Christo Grozev, but
well, of course, the events of the last month are really overwhelming. And the more I think about it, the more I see a connection. And I mean, it is a well-known fact that Netanyahu and Putin have a very close relationship. There are many, many Putinists and oligarchs, etc., in Russia, in Israel. I mean, 1 million Russians went to live in Israel in the 90s. And the pattern of this Gaza war is exactly like the Ukraine war, this blitzkrieg, this destruction of infrastructure, hospitals, schools, civilians. And it's only a personal theory, but I think I think Putin is actually sort of an example about how to fight a war these days if you're going to want to win. And B, I think the only person that Netanyahu is listening to is Putin, and following his role. Now, that's just a personal thought, but the coincidences do seem great. You know, the tactics are the same, and you know, I just think, and I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody or being controversial, but you know, I think Netanyahu has taken this opportunity to just inflict as much damage as he possibly can on Gaza, regardless of world opinion, which has largely been actually supportive of that crime, incredible crime. I mean, it's the same level of crime as Putin's committing and the Russians are committing in Ukraine. So it just seems too much of a coincidence, really, that this is what is happening. And there were many other ways, and there are many other ways that Israel can achieve peace. And it's not by this blitzkrieg, this destruction that we're seeing, which is we haven't seen since the Second World War. I mean, the thing that struck us when we were in Ukraine is like, my God, this is a bit like what it must have been in Europe in the 40s, in this exact place. You know, exact place, you know, where Nazi atrocities were committed, Russian atrocities are being committed. And the scale of the destruction and the death we're seeing as we speak is the same. I mean, I don't see how you can distinguish it or differentiate it. So anyway, that's my view. But I think that's maybe what's prompting your question. I don't know.
Yo, is this about Ukraine or?
If someone has a question, they can raise their hand. Yeah, in the back there.
Just to add on to that comment, I mean, first of all, I'm a Ukrainian and I'm a filmmaker myself, but I want to say thank you for creating this documentary, and I think you're completely correct. The world has very little attention span, and frankly, it's unfortunate that media cycles go through trends, and now my house is on fire, and that's now a trend that's forgotten. That's not to take away from the atrocities that are happening between Israel and Gaza. But with your movie, because you have such a star-packed team and phenomenal filmmakers, and you have the platform to help Ukraine not be forgotten again, because we've been fighting this war for almost 10 years now. What are your hopes and what are your next plans to use this film as an impact for that?
Well, we obviously just want people to see it. Thank you for what you've said. And, you know, I've been making films in the region for all that time, and like many others, identified Putin as an existential threat to the world. And so, in a way, this all came as no great surprise, although most people were convinced it wouldn't happen. Now, I think once the cat is out the bag or the genie's out the bottle, and in the 21st century, you can carry out acts like that with impunity. I mean, that is what is happening. And I really pray that Putin and Russia do not get away with it. I really hope there will be culpability, and they will be in the dock, and they will be tried for their crimes. And that can only happen, of course, with sufficient support from the West. And it is about the weapons. It's weapons, weapons, weapons. And, you know, we've seen ups and downs and comings and goings. I mean, apparently the first F-16s are going to be in service now, soon. We've already seen the impact that this stronger military equipment has had. And indeed, everybody talks about how slow the counteroffensive is, but actually maybe there has been some progress recently, and it is a long and difficult thing. And of course, Ukraine is paying with countless lives. I mean, the price that Ukraine is paying for our freedom is really unbearable. Sorry.
No. One thing that I remember from when I was in Ukraine and spending a lot of time with the media personnel, because I'd always have to communicate with like Foreign Minister Kuleba's press person to like, can we come today? What's the schedule like, etc. They were very aware of the news cycle, and they were very aware of the dropping viewership of like Zelensky's Instagram channel and people's interest in Ukraine. And it was so sad because they would sometimes sort of hope for something horrible to happen again to grab the world's attention. And I feel like they're in this sad situation again where they're thinking, God, we don't want something more horrible than what's happening in Israel and Gaza, but we need something again to grab the world's attention. It's really sad that things work like that in this sort of nasty cycle, and we just are drawn to it from devastation.
So, I mean, she was also asking about your hopes for getting this film out into the
yeah.
world. And,
Absolutely.
we, those of us who are in the documentary film industry are feeling a lot of shifts in the media landscape where there used to be an opening for, not a wide opening, but some opening for some political films. The film that you produced, Navalny,
Yes.
came out through CNN Films, which has now closed itself in that form. We've seen a lot of other consolidation this year that has kind of shrunk the space for this kind of filmmaking.
It's very sad.
I
think.
wonder if you can reflect.
No, we went through that while getting Navalny out. CNN Films was shut down. They were one of the last platforms that took political films. I myself have had in recent days, sadly, many meetings with the people that can platform this kind of film, where they're just like, we're staying away from political films, and it's this shift in the industry, and within the industry, we're trying to talk about different solutions with people who are very strong supporters of political films to try and find an independent distribution route. But do voice your opinions to your streamers. You pay subscriptions. They built their platforms on films that win awards, political films, films that push the envelope, that make you think out of the box, and now it doesn't fit their algorithm anymore. So.
I'd like to add a more optimistic note.
Great.
Yeah. I can't say who these people were that we were talking with today, but they're a major player. And we were talking about how, since the terrible atrocities of October 7th and the subsequent reaction by Israel, actually people now are really interested, and we do see, demonstrations, and in fact there has been an awakening, especially with the Palestinian story. Now, the Palestinian story, Palestine and Palestinians have been invisible for 75 years. That's an incredible thing, how that is even possible, but it's true. Now, they're not so invisible. Now, in fact, the entire world is really gripped by their fate and by what is going to happen. And I think the vast majority of people are demanding of explanation and some form of justice. And so these people I was talking to today kind of agreed with that, and agreed that actually there is far more interest in geopolitics, if you like. And that's true of Ukraine as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, but it's true. It's just true because the response, especially of younger people, to these events.
The minute I see it in their dollars going in this direction.
Yeah, but they're anyway. So
I'm hopeful.
So I'm just saying, and I can't say more than that. But it actually felt genuinely that there has been, because of these horrific events, and I talk about Ukraine as well, far more interest and appetite and thirst for information and knowledge and understanding about these long-running dispute. What should we call it? War. Let's just call it war. So I don't know. If you'd have asked me this question yesterday, I'd completely agree with you. Okay. But I feel that there is a shift, and I think broadcasters and distributors. They're not blind to trends. They don't willfully ignore them. In fact, their money and their careers are built on recognizing them. And strange as it may seem, reality and the pursuit of justice is actually something that is very interesting to very large numbers of people, especially younger people, I think.
Right. Question right here.
I just have a question around, at the beginning of the film, there seemed to be a leaning to discuss a peaceful solution, and I'm wondering what your feeling around Ukraine is now, whether there is a lot of discussion, that there's any chance of a peaceful solution or some kind of compromise. You hear the numbers that Ukraine is is getting the weapons, but have literally run out of people to hold the weapons. As far as men go, there aren't any more men to go to the front lines.
Well, that's definitely the issue of resources is definitely an issue.
I'm less hopeful. I feel like I'm just less hopeful in general, but I just think with the world's attention shifting and
The perfect time to look for a peaceful solution.
yes, but they don't have any upper hand to demand terms that they would be happy with. They could negotiate, and probably everything that is being occupied by Russia right now would go to Russia.
I mean, Ukraine has a peace plan, and it's predicated on obviously withdrawal of all Russians from all of Ukraine territory, and security guarantees from the rest of the world. I mean, so I don't think in Ukraine there is any appetite for such a compromise, and plus it wouldn't even work. I mean, that's the point. When did Russia ever stick to a deal? It's like doing a deal with Hitler. It's just like, yeah, good luck with that one.
I've heard
A whole generation of men there.
I've heard that even if they were to make some kind of deal right now and give a large piece of that land to Russia, that even if the government made that deal, that the people who've been fighting are so angry that they wouldn't agree to it, and they would just have some kind of rogue faction start fighting, and there would become a civil war. And I don't know. Although a lot of people are also getting tired of the war. You hear all kinds of different things.
I can take one more question. Yeah, right there.
Hi, thank you so much for this wonderful doc. I had a question for you about, more or less, I think the doc covered so much, and you had multiple characters, most of them government officials, right? Almost all of them, all of your main characters worked for the government, very much in line with whatever the Ukrainian officials were saying, obviously because they are in that role. I wonder how you made those decisions about, like, obviously you had a lot of access behind the scenes. I wonder why, like, perhaps a soldier or someone else that wasn't at the very top of the government.
So can you talk about the focus on government officials?
Yeah. More or less, like, you followed them for a very long
Well, there are many very great films that are dealing with exactly the subject you're talking about, and on the ground reality for people fighting the war. And nobody's I can't think of another film that has followed a government in time of war as we did. And you know, we got this access. People say, "How do we get the access?" Well, we were kind of we were there, and actually there weren't many other people trying to pursue and do what we were doing. So we were kind of like we were there, the people doing it, and they gave us their trust and they gave us their time and. I mean, obviously, trust is everything, and you know, and we're not journalists in the respect that we're trying to make a balanced film about how well the Ukrainian government are doing. We're making a real plea to the world to understand why Ukraine must be supported to the greatest possible degree, and we weren't trying to do anything else. And I hope we've done something that maybe contributes to that and contributes to Ukraine's victory, which we believe in.
Well, you're the first audience in New York City to see Defiant. There's one more day of the festival screenings in person tomorrow, and then the festival continues online through November 26th. I hope you get to see more. Thanks very much for coming. Thanks especially to Michael Lerner and Odessa Ray.
Well, thank you, Tom, for all your support.